Hey, question for you all, and I know that you're all going to say yes, and if you don't, then you're a liar. How many of you guys have ever participated or come up with or acted out in a prank? A prank. Oh, yeah, we're talking a prank. Oh, winter camp. Winter camp's always a time when you junior hires, you come up to me, you come up to Steve, you come up to Brett or Porter, another youth corps. Hey, is it cool if we go prank the girls' cabin? Or you girls like, hey, girls don't have that deep voice. Hey, is it cool if we prank the boys tonight? And it's just, yeah, is it cool if we set off fireworks at camp? Goodness gracious. No, it always happens. You guys always want to know if you can do pranks, if you can do this, or that, and you haven't learned. It's just like, don't ask us. Just do it and hope you don't get in trouble. All right? I probably shouldn't have told you that. But when I was a kid, believe it or not, I was a prankster. I was just a rebel child. I was always getting into trouble. You know, cops were always having to pick me up. I was crazy. Yeah, you guys know. Yeah, I was on the playground when No. Now, a couple times I've talked about my friend Daniel. Daniel Sutton, he was my best friend growing up. I was just in his wedding about a month ago. But when we were growing up, we hung out all the time. Our families were really close. Because of that, we were really close. And because our parents had cars and they always wanted to hang out, me and Daniel always got to hang out. And usually when our families would hang out, at some point during the evening, some point during the evening, we would get the idea, hey, let's have a sleepover. Like, that's what 10-year-old kids do. Mom, Dad, can I please just sleep over tonight at Daniel's house? I know I don't have my toothbrush or deodorant or anything, but it's cool. I don't worry about that right now because I don't like girls. I don't know. It's like, it doesn't matter what's going on. You can have a sleepover at any time. All you need is a blanket and a pillow and your best friend, and you have a sleepover. When me and Daniel would have sleepover, sometimes we would get the bright idea to try and prank either other people in his neighborhood that he knew, or, if he was at my house, we'd go around and do stuff to other people in our neighborhood. But one night we got the best idea ever. It's the best prank idea ever for a 10-year-old. We decided that we were going to do a prank in his own house to his sister who was sleeping in the next room. I know, it was a crazy idea. Rachel had no idea what was coming. So we put together this plan, like, all right, what would we normally do to prank other people? Like toilet paper. All right, we got a bunch of toilet paper, and instead of toilet papering like the outside of a person's house, we decided to toilet paper the inside of her room while she was sleeping. Yeah, without waking her up. So, all right, that's one idea. And then another idea we had, what else did we do? We had like 6 things. I'm only going to tell you a couple because it was the most elaborate prank ever. So, I'll tell you about the toilet paper. We were able to use like 10 rolls of toilet paper, and in a bedroom, 10 rolls of toilet paper goes a long ways. And I don't know how she didn't wake up because we were giggling the whole time. And she'll never go with us. Like, even though we've been awake in the next room all night. I don't know. But we're doing it and she's not waking up. And finally, we got everything. The toilet paper's just looking great. She's not awake. We're ready to sneak out. And we get one more good idea. How many of you guys have ever left a door open like 6 inches and then balanced a bucket of water? Balanced a bucket of water. That's like, all right, Daniel, we got to do this. Now, even when Daniel was 10 years old, if you guys know him now, he's 6'7". But when he was 10 years old, he was like 6'5". That guy was a freak. He was so tall. So putting something up on top of a door, not really a problem. So we went to the kitchen, we grabbed a big Tupperware bowl, filled it full of water, and we started to balance it on the door. And he gets it all balanced, and I'm holding the door. He gets it balanced. And right as it's like good, we're set, Rachel wakes up. And all we hear is, what the heck? And Daniel freaks out, and I'm still holding the door, he's holding the bucket. He turns to run, and as he turns, he bumps me. And I move the door, and the entire bucket of water falls down on me. And I'm just standing there, I was like, Daniel, you're such a tard. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was all wet, it's like 2 in the morning. And she's like, what did you guys do? And then the parents wake up, and then me and Daniel got in trouble. All in all, it was a prank that went horribly wrong. A prank that went horribly wrong. And I'm sure all you guys have stories of all these huge elaborate pranks that you put together, and then like one thing happens, and all of a sudden, oh man, we had the best prank ever, but then my shoe came untied and we couldn't do it, so I don't know. You guys all have your stories. But you know, in Luke chapter 14, that's what we're going to be looking at tonight, and actually throughout the Gospels, we see Pharisees. We see the so-called teachers of the law, and they're always trying to prank Jesus. They're always trying to test him. They're always trying to get him to stumble. And we're going to look at Luke chapter 14, and we're seeing Jesus gets invited to a party. He gets invited to a big get-together on the Sabbath. Sabbath was like a day of rest. According to the law, you work 6 days during the week, and then you would take the Sabbath off. So he gets invited to the party on the Sabbath, and the party is at the house of one of the chief Pharisees. If you have your Bibles, open up to Luke chapter 14. I have mine. Give me a second. Good thing I marked it. We're gonna start by reading the first six verses of chapter 14. Read along as I read aloud. Jesus heals on the Sabbath. It happened that when he went into the house of one of the leaders of the Pharisees on the Sabbath to eat bread, they were watching him closely. And there in front of him was a man suffering from dropsy. Don't worry, we'll talk about what that is. Verse 3, and Jesus answered and spoke to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? Verse 4, but they kept silent. And he took hold of him and healed him and sent him away. And he said to them, which one of you will have a son or an ox fall into a well and will not immediately pull him out on a Sabbath day? They could make no reply to this. They had no answer for it. Now let me go ahead and pray before we break this down. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. God, thank you for these students. God, I just miss these kids. I miss getting to see them every week and hang out with them and be a part of their life. So I thank you so much for this opportunity to come back in Steve's absence to teach and to bring your word a little bit. God, just be with Steve right now as he's in Africa. Just protect him. Thank you for getting him there safely. Help him to have a good time with the McCombs and be a part of his speaking that he will be doing there, and then bring him back safely, God. Amen. All right. Just read the first 6 verses of chapter 14. Verse 1, it says that Jesus was in this house. He got invited to a party, like I said. It says he was there to eat bread. That's what the NASB says. He was there to eat. He was there to have dinner. He was just, walking down the street. Hey, Jesus, you want to come in for dinner? Sure, free dinner. You know, if he's anything like a college kid now, he loves the free food. But the funny part of this verse actually comes at the very end. Looking at the very end of verse 1, where it says in the text that they were watching him closely. Watching him closely. And when I'm reading that, it reminds me of when me and Brittany go on dates. When we go to these really nice, extravagant, expensive restaurants where it's just really romantic, it's just the two of us, that's really the environment that Taco Bell gives you. And when me and Brittany eat, I am either just a ridiculously fast eater or she is a very slow eater. I finish first every time. My food is gone. I'm like licking my plate clean, trying to pass time while she's like halfway down with like the first bite. And so as I'm done, I want to engage in some conversation. So I'm looking at her. And a lot of times Brittany's like, don't stare at me when I eat. I said, Brittany, other than the fact that you chew with your mouth open, there's food all over your face. I'm just kidding. She doesn't do that. She's a very delicate eater. Yes, when she has a Federico's burrito, she's very nice with it. No. But she always gives me a hard time for staring at her while she's eating. I don't know, it makes her self-conscious when I watch her when she's eating. But that's just kind of what I thought of. Jesus is here eating, and it says that the Pharisees were watching him closely. So he's just eating, and they're all, what's he doing? Let's just stare at Jesus while he's eating. Yeah, he's chewing. What can we do for that? What can we make fun of him for now? So that's verse 1. Verse 2, the text now, it points to a man who's sitting across from Jesus, who's sitting right in front of him. A man who has a condition, a medical condition called dropsy. Now, Chelsea can probably tell us what dropsy is, so she's going to come up here now and just give us a brief 10-minute, no, I'm just kidding. No, dropsy, it's a medical condition that you don't find today, so don't go home and ask your mom or dad, has anybody in our family had dropsy in the last couple of generations? I really don't want to get it. It's a medical condition that, just to describe it very easily, it just makes your body swell up. So nowadays it's called going to Dunkin' Donuts too often. But back then it was called dropsy, where just like random parts of your body would just swell up for no reason. And I Googled it, and just some nasty, weird, Google like halfway down the page is like Google images for dropsy. And it's just like huge body parts like on people's arms and legs. Like, you didn't want to have dropsy. Yeah, your whole body, it would be like you with a ginormous right leg. I don't know, then you would have dropsy. So, basically, if you have dropsy, you walk around, you have bumps all over your place. Now we see right here, this is obviously a test. Jesus is going to this, he knows that a test is coming. Because back then, someone who had dropsy would be considered unclean. You guys have probably heard like leprosy. Anybody who had leprosy would be considered unclean, and they would be asked to move out of town. Anybody who had dropsy would be considered unclean, and they would not be welcome in the house of the Pharisees. Like, the Pharisees wouldn't want to have anything to do with someone who was unclean. But in this case, the Pharisees, they went out and found this man and said, hey, come to dinner tonight. We want you to come hang out. And then they just conveniently put him right across from Jesus in order to test him. So let's keep going. Now, as I mentioned before, this was the Sabbath. The way the law was set up is you would work for 6 days, and then on the Sabbath, the 7th day, you could take a rest. You were not supposed to work. According to the law, you were not supposed to work. This does, if you read deeply into the law, it does include healing. So even like doctors would take the Sabbath off. So if Jesus healed this man, he was breaking the law. This was the test they're starting to set up. If Jesus healed this man, he was breaking the law. But if Jesus did not heal this man, then the Pharisees could have put together an argument that says, oh, Jesus is not compassionate. Jesus had a chance to heal this man. He could have just broken the law a little bit to heal this man. He's just not a compassionate person. Don't follow. So either way, Jesus was trapped. According to the Pharisees, they had set up this elaborate prank. They had set up this elaborate test, and they were going to catch Jesus. So Jesus, before he does anything, he looks over at the Pharisees. The Pharisees haven't said anything. He looks over at them and he says, is it lawful? Is it okay to heal someone on the Sabbath? They say nothing. They say nothing. And actually, that's kind of a smart thing. Because if they answer, then Jesus might be able to do like the opposite thing. It gives Jesus an out. If they say nothing, then no matter what Jesus does, they can condemn him. Either way, they've got him. Or so they think. Now, the second part of verse 4 and 5, we're going to keep flying here. It's awesome. It's awesome. So many times before, when Jesus has been tested, guess how many times he passed? Every single time. So up until this point, he's passed every single test. And why should this test be any different? Why should this test be any different? First of all, you don't want to just pass on this. Jesus reaches out and heals the man. They make it seem so casual in the text. Jesus just reached out, touched him, healed. Hey, you can go. Good job. You don't have dropsy anymore. Good job. Go get married, have kids, have a good family, get a good job, do what you got to do. It's just an incredible miracle right there. He heals him of his dropsy. And before the Pharisees could even say anything, he looks over and says, which one of you will have a son or an ox fall into a well and will not immediately pull him out on a Sabbath day? And they had no answer. Because none of them were that hardcore to say, hey, you know what? If my son fell into the well on the Sabbath day, I'm not allowed to work. I'd have to leave him there until the next day. Like, sorry, Justin. I'm going to have to come back tomorrow. I'm not supposed to work today. If you're lucky, maybe Mom will bring you some dinner. But she's really not supposed to cook because that would be working. Yeah, we'll have to catch you tomorrow. Bye. What? No. See, you can't do that. No one would actually leave their son. And it also says no one would leave their ox if their ox fell into a well. Now, back then, if you were a landowner and you owned fields and you had to plow crops, you didn't have heavy machinery to plow your crops. You had to use ox, or one ox or multiple oxen if you want to get plural. And that was their heavy machinery. They didn't have heavy machinery. They had heavy animals. That's kind of what they had back then. So if your ox fell into a well, obviously, who cares what day it is? That's part of your livelihood. You need to get him out. Once again, Jesus has passed a test that the Pharisees gave him. They tried to prank him, and it didn't work. He just threw it back in their faces. Pretty awesome stuff. Hey, we're going to keep on reading through verse 11. So if you got your Bibles, we're going to pick up in verse